So here we are. 3 ways to end power struggle with your teenager. You are in the right place if that's what you're looking for. You're also going to get some little bonus information, which is about setting clear agreements and how to be an approachable parent and allow them to come and talk to you. This webinar should be about an hour, and we're going to get started soon. I just wanted to talk a little bit about who I am. So I am a certified life coach, and I specialize in the bookends of life. That's parents of children and adult children who are helping to take care of their aging parents. That's a whole different demographic, and that involves my previous medical background. So I have a lot of referrals and knowledge in that area. But for tonight, we're going to talk about parenting. And for those of you who are still popping in, put the ages of your children in the chat box. You can select panelists if you only want me to know or see it, and panelists and attendees if you want everybody to see it. So as you are coming in, close off all your browsers so that you're not distracted, and paper and pen are helpful. So I want to tell you some stories about my life as a parent. When I was a single mom, my kids were about 8 and 12 when I divorced. I've got 2 daughters. And I had to go back to school because I didn't have a college degree, and it was really hard for me to make a living doing what I was doing at the time. So I decided to go back to school full time, and I was still working part time, and I had lots of help from family and friends watching my children while I was busy doing these things. And I felt very disconnected from my children. And I was afraid of what would come of that. They needed their parents, and their father was not available as much in the beginning time of the divorce. So I came up with this idea in order to communicate with them. I came up with the idea of the notebooks. I would write a note before I left in the morning, or at night. I would write a note, tell them a little bit about my day, and then I would ask them some questions about their day. I left each notebook by their bed so that when they woke up in the morning, they would see these notebooks and answer my questions, complain about their sister, and tell me a little bit about their day. It was a way that we were able to communicate, and I felt satisfied that they still were in connection with me, which is important as a parent. And I kept those notebooks because they're really, really special to me. And we were reading them a few months ago, and we were having a good laugh over it because it's so funny how the kids were just complaining about each other in those notebooks, but I still felt connected to them, and that's what's important. And if you stay till the end, you're going to get a bonus. You're going to get a PDF on 5 ways to teach self-discipline to your children. So if you're ready, I'm almost ready. I'm getting excited to be able to impart to you the knowledge that I've gained through trial and error and all of my own education. So I took a lot of parenting classes. I got certified as a life coach. I went to therapy and personal development, and I did everything to stay connected to my kids. And you know what? I still made mistakes, and so did they. One of the really important things for me in the very beginning of parenting all by myself as a single mom was staying connected to my kids and letting them be open and talk to me. So I want to tell you a story that feels a little embarrassing, but it's not, because we got through it and we did well. So you know how when teenagers, they have kids that drink in their class, they might want to start drinking, they socialize in a way that is not healthy. Teenagers are sexting now, sending pictures. I mean, there are things that teenagers have available to them that are just not healthy for their growth. And it creates drama in their lives that they don't need. So I knew my kids were going to parties and I was really hoping they weren't drinking because I did not support that. That is 100% not allowed in my home, in my family system, in my values. Underage drinking is not something I condone at all. So I used to tell my daughters, if you know you're going to a party, I want to know whose house you're going to. I want the address and I want the phone number of at least 3 people that are going to be at that party that if something happened, I could reach out to. So I did that. And then I said, if everybody's drinking at this party and you want to go to a second party, which is something that teenagers do sometimes, call me. I will drive you to the second party. And I did that because I don't want them getting in the car with other teenagers who have just been drinking. That is the most dangerous thing that they could do. A little byproduct of that was that they didn't drink as much during the first party because they knew they were going to have to call me for safety reasons to take them to the second one. And they sometimes didn't wear the clothing that I tell them all the time not to wear because they were afraid if I came to pick them up and they're wearing that outfit that I told them is not appropriate or too skimpy, that they were afraid they'd get into trouble or that sort of thing. Do I love telling this story? No. Do I love discussing publicly that my daughter did drink during high school or she went to parties that I would not have chosen for her? No. But I don't judge it. It was my journey. And I went through these things and came up with strategies and ideas and ways to keep connected with my children and to not fight with them. And I'm imparting that to you. So not fighting with my children meant I had to be creative. And that's part of what I'm going to share with you tonight. I'm really excited about it. And let's see, some of you are posting. Let's see if I can take a little pause. If you're ready to learn the beef of what I'm here for, I am, okay, I'm going to read that after somebody just posted a very relatively long question. So I'm going to get to that, but that's interesting. I'm going to get to the questions at the end. So hang on there. I am not going to ignore you. Don't worry. I will be answering that question because we're all here together and we're all learning together. It's important to get out of power struggle with your kids because it keeps them safe and it keeps your sanity. So one thing I'm going to say before I even start with everything else is pick your battles. That's really, really, really important. And set clear agreements. So what does it mean to set clear agreements? It means you're not bossing them around because when you're bossing them around, they're not listening. A teenager's job is to individuate and figure out who they are and what they want in life. And they think parents don't know anything. We don't get it. We were never teenagers. We don't get it. I mean, I do have to tell you that my opportunity to get into trouble was way different when I was a teenager than now. We didn't have the technology that they have now. So yeah, there's a lot more opportunity to get hurt and to get into trouble in a way that wasn't there before. So you have to find a way to pick your battles and set clear agreements first. If you're not bossing your children around and saying, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that, then how does that really look? Well, when my daughters were teenagers and I was busy at school and work, so I wanted help with dinner. So I told my daughters who each one of them was going to cook dinner one night a week so that we can do whatever. I needed the break, honestly. So one of my daughters cooked dinner. It was great. The other one just didn't. She just stopped. So I was starving that night. We were hungry. We had to scramble for dinner. And I realized at that moment, I didn't have an agreement with her. I just told her she was cooking dinner. And she is a very, very stubborn child. She's actually the child, my younger daughter, she knows who she is, was the one who started me on this parenting journey because she's so stubborn. And she was just going to be in power struggle with me and not to cook. But I didn't make an agreement with her. Had I made an agreement with her, it would have changed everything. So how could that have looked differently? I could have said to her, I need help in the house. And I really want us to work as a team. How can we work as a team so that I don't do all the work and you don't do anything in the house? How can we do this as a team? If you're not going to cook dinner, what can you do? So then she might want to set the table or clean up after dinner or something like that. Let's say she said, I want to clean up after dinner 3 nights a week. And you say, okay, so you're going to clean up after dinner 3 nights a week. And she's going to go, yeah. Do you have an agreement? Post in the chat if you think you have an agreement. If she said, yeah. You go to the chat. Oop. Right. No. That's not an agreement. Yeah, there you go. It's coming. No. And not if she says it like that. Exactly. You don't have an agreement until you say to your teenager, and it's really important to do this because it makes them feel like they have control. So you say to them, okay, you said that you would clean up after dinner 2 nights a week. Do we have an agreement? And if she says, yes, we have an agreement, I will clean up after dinner 2 nights a week. And I even recommend, now that I'm talking this through, say which 2 nights, because that'll be fun chasing her for the 2 nights. So then you say, which 2 nights will you do? Tuesday and Friday. Okay, so do we have an agreement? Yes, we have an agreement that I will clean up the dishes after dinner on Tuesdays and Fridays. Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question. Somebody posted a question. What if your child says, I'm not going to help you? Too bad. So sad. So we have to build up a relationship with the children where they realize that we're helping them and they're helping us because we're a team in the family. But I'm going to get to that question at the end. We'll talk about that question because that's a good one. Kids do that. Kids will just say, too bad. But there have to be consequences for somebody not following through on their actions. And we're going to talk about that at the end. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to be an approachable parent, which this actually leads into it. Because if you're not an approachable parent and your kids can't come talk to you, then they're not going to want to help you either. They're not going to want to do anything for you either. So you have to have empathy. Empathy is so important in relationships, in all relationships, and in their relationships with their children. So if they're unhappy about something, in my experience, there was a lot of unhappiness with divorce. So when my kids were unhappy about the divorce, or they missed their dad, or they missed me because I was working so much, I got to say to them, like, I'm really sorry. And I wish that you didn't come from a divorced family. But you do. And I love you. And your father loves you. Sometimes there's no answer. Sometimes you just have to have empathy and say, that sucks. I know, I see how you're feeling. Kids want to be heard. When they're heard and when you have empathy and they believe you, they will open up to you. So I'm going to tell you a story about a little kid and his scout. in his scout, I don't know what they call it, troop, scout troop. So one of my clients, yes, we have to be vulnerable. Exactly. But they're still our children. So we have to be vulnerable and not make them, take care of us. We take care of them. And I'm going to get into that nuance in a moment. So this little boy loves his scout troop, and his mother couldn't understand why every week he was saying, no, I don't want to go this week. I don't want to go this week. I don't want to go this week. And finally, she said to him, through coaching, and we got to this point where she's really close with her kids, and her kids were afraid to open up to her, but we worked on it together. And then her son came up to her and said, I'm scared. He goes, I don't want to go to my scout troop, because what if I get sick? What if I get COVID? How do I know I'm going to be protected? And the mother said, I can hear how sad you are and afraid. And we're all afraid to some degree. And you have a very strong immune system. And I will make sure that you have your mask on, and your troops are doing social distancing, and it's outside. So we'll make sure that you're safe. And I know that you're strong and you can handle it. And he hopped in the car and he went to his scout troops, and he was running around and doing all the activities that they do there. And at the end, he was like, oh, Mom, I'm so glad I went. I had such a good time and I feel okay. We have to validate their feelings. That's part of empathy. And if this mother hadn't gotten herself to a place where he felt free to speak to her, he might have been bottling that up. And who knows what could have happened with that fear and anxiety. He could have stayed home and never did anything fun that he wanted to do. The COVID restrictions have lasted way longer than most people predicted. And he would have just been home, depressed at 8 years old. And instead, he was able to open up to his mother. And that's what's important about empathy and being approachable and allowing your kids to express what they have to express. The other thing I want to say is that when we talk to our kids, watch your face. Make sure that your face is not judging them, is not angry, is not scowling. Make sure that your face matches what words you're saying. If you're speaking in a loving tone, or you want to empathize with them and you want them to feel that you feel their sadness when they're sad, don't look angry. Don't look judgmental. Don't roll your eyes, because they're going to roll their eyes too. We have to show them with our face how to be loving, unconditional, and open. That's the groundwork that you have to lay to get out of power struggle. So if your child says, I'm not going to help you, too bad, so sad, and goes to their room, then there are consequences for things like that. However, first you have to get to the bottom. Like, I can tell that you're angry. What are you angry about? Because that sounds like somebody who's very angry. That doesn't sound like somebody who just, had a bad day. That sounds like a buildup. Oh, one of the other attendees wrote that her son says to watch her tone, and that's caused her to be more aware. You're very, very lucky and blessed that your son feels comfortable saying to you, watch your tone of voice, and that you're doing it. It's very, very good. It shows a level of communication. And I just want to make sure that there's no where he feels he's parenting you. But it sounds like he's just telling you, like, hey, your tone of voice is saying one thing and your words are saying another. They have to match in order for your child to be connected to you. What you say, what you do, how you look has to match. If you're in power struggle and there's no budging, your teenager is yelling from another room that they wanted something that you were supposed to do and you didn't do it, and it's your fault, and now they're going to be in their room and yelling at you. Don't accept yelling. If you're the type of person who's like quick to anger and you want to yell back at them, then you need to take a moment, deep breath, pause. This pause is golden for parents. We need to pause, take a breath, go outside for a minute, to have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, do something, and then go back to your teenager in a calm voice and respond. And the first thing you say is that we don't have to yell at each other. And you're going to go to where they are. You're not going to go yell from the other room because that teaches them to yell also. You're going to go to where they are. And you're going to say to them, I really appreciate it that you don't yell. We can have a conversation about this that's bothering you, that I didn't do the thing, but we can't yell about it. That's just not who we are as a family. We don't yell at each other. Give choices, not orders. So in the case of the dishes, it was choices, not orders, right? When my kids were younger, I yelled a lot. I yelled from the other room. I yelled from upstairs or downstairs. I was so frustrated as a young mom, not really knowing what to do and not how to handle my own feelings, that I was yelling. And I taught them how to yell too. So we had to undo that with a lot of this gentleness over time. When I stopped yelling, they stopped yelling. And I want to say it's not always yelling. Some kids are just quiet. And I wonder if there's someone who posted something here about their teenager just not saying anything. That's another way to show aggression or to show anger or to be in power struggle. If you're not going to communicate, then how do you figure out a solution if you don't know what the problem is? So, yeah, people are posting to the panelists there. Yeah, and texting. I'll bring that up at the end too. This is some good comments I have to bring up, but I want to make sure that I give you the content that I promised you before going off on the deep end and answering all the questions and then not coming back to what I promised you. But I want to tell you about a success story about a client of mine. So she was an alienated parent. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with what that is. An alienated parent is when one parent turns the kids against the other parent and essentially says that that parent is going to be bad to you, is going to abuse you, is going to starve you, is going to whatever they have to say to get the children to not want to go to that parent. So this parent was the parent that the kids were poisoned against. Yeah, alienated parents is really, really, really tough. So it's a very difficult thing for kids to get over, but it's doable if you're willing to work on it. It's doable. This client, she worked so hard at being such a good mother because the court forced the father to give her 50% custody. So she is now seeing her daughter, but her daughter is in serious revenge with her and silent. She's not yelling at her. She's not throwing things at her. She is the silent type, like passive aggressive. So one thing that you do in that situation, you don't hold your head down. You don't just do, okay, no. You just tell them, I love you and I want to hear what you have to say. And this client of mine, she did that. The daughter would just be quiet or she would just run up to her room. She wouldn't eat with the family. So she At first, she didn't eat. One day, 2 days, she came. It wasn't in a row. She would come for like a day and then go back to her dad and then come back to her, and she didn't eat. But this can't go on forever. So then the third day, the daughter came down, got her food, and went upstairs. And slowly, slowly, they started building to where they could actually talk and have a conversation. And then that anger and that passive aggressive, where she would just clam up and not talk or go to her room, it eventually stopped. It took a very long time because there's a lot of other psychological stuff in there, but it goes away with the proper parenting, the proper attention to detail. I remember when my daughter was maybe 5 years old, she was such a difficult child. She was very stubborn, didn't cooperate with anything, and she was little. I started my parenting journey at that time. And my parenting journey at that time, I had to learn how to talk differently to her. I couldn't say negative things to her. So if she asked for something, I could never say no. I always had to say the positive reverse of it. And it was exhausting to always think before you speak. And sometimes I used to cry myself to sleep. But eventually, that positivity is actually a beautiful thing. That's how I stopped yelling. That's how I started talking in positive phrases. It took a long time of myself crying myself to sleep because I felt like I was going crazy, like I couldn't just talk. But my just talking was angry and offensive to that child. It didn't work. So that's something to think about, is that this may be really hard for you to shift and make these changes, but it's worth it because you're laying the groundwork of caring for your children and getting out of that power struggle. Did the mom each time say the same phrase or variation of it or other things each time? So it depends. When the child is quiet, she would just say, I love you, or dinner is here. I'm here for you if you want to talk. It really depended on the situation. If they were in the car and she was giving her complete silence, my client would, drive the car and offer to take her to her favorite takeout restaurant. Hey, you want to get takeout from you want Taco Tuesday? I know you love tacos. Would you like tacos today? Or it would just kind of get her out of her shell. Or she would say, you know what? Since you're not answering, we're going to get tacos. That's what's going to be dinner. And so it's not the same exact words. It's positive phrases. It's always staying positive and staying strong as a parent and not accepting the silent treatment and not accepting the yelling. You also want to give them useful ways to be powerful. So as a little child, if they don't want to put on their seatbelt in the car, you can make them the manager of the seatbelt. So they get to make sure that everybody in the car has the seatbelts. And of course, they're going to make sure they have that too. Or if you can post in the chat too, ways that you can think of making somebody powerful in your household. I was a proponent of family meetings. We had family meetings. And during the family meeting, different people could take charge. One person can choose the word of the week that you're going to learn. I'm a nerd. I call myself a word nerd because I like the English language and I like big words and I like to learn new words. So we would do that. They would choose the word of the week and we would incorporate that into our meeting or incorporate it into the next meeting or incorporate it into something we did all week. So if you had family meetings, you could appoint different person in your family, age appropriate, of course, as like the leader of that meeting, and you help them make the agenda and you talk about different things. Or you could plan meals. So let's say you plan your dinners for the week, then your one child could be the one who goes to all the family members and says, what is it you want to eat this week? And then you sit down with them and organize it. So you give them power. You give them something that they're controlling over, that's in their domain, that's in their control. Give them a plant to take care of. They know they have to water it. If they don't water the plant, it dies. That could be the thing that they're in charge of. So give them things to feel powerful about. And while I'm on this, grades and school, if they're really good at something, point it out. If they get, some whatever grade combination they get, if they get a poor grade, ask them why they think they got that. It's their opportunity to assess themselves and to learn about themselves. Why do you think you got that grade? What do you think would be good? And if they don't know, you could give them ideas, or maybe say, let's go Google ideas to improve your grades and see if any of this resonates with you. The truth is, these things take time. They take patience. And it's really sometimes hard when you've got so much else going on. But it's so important because the kids are our future and we want them to be productive and loving citizens. Have any of these things resonated with any of you? So you can do in the chat, panelists and attendees, or just panelists. I want to hear from you. Are any of these things clicking with you? Are any of these things that I'm saying like, oh my God, I've done that? Or if I had only done that? Is there anything? I'm just going to take a quick look in the chat because I know we do have some things to address. So one parent in this group said, regarding the taco example, I'm wary of the potential for things to become pandering dynamic. So pandering means like bribing them or giving them things to get them to do things. Yeah. So in that example, it was an extreme example of a child who really, really, really wasn't getting contact with the parent. And we needed something to open her up, to understand that the parent loves her. So it's not pandering in that case. But if pandering to you means like bribing, that doesn't work. Then you have to do something else. Then I'm not going to go buy you tacos because you're not talking to me to get you to open up in a relationship that's not an extreme power struggle, where you just have the occasional power struggle, but otherwise it's a normal, healthy relationship. Then you can discuss maybe including tacos that you make at home as part of the dinner because that's something that they like. So you'll empower them, not give into their whims because they're having a fit. That's not going to help anybody. And that's going to teach them to manipulate. It's a fine line. I was about to just read it, and the first thing this person wrote is, don't say aloud. So I'm not going to read it. Okay. If there's anything that's personal and I am going to be posting a link to get on a call with me, I'm very happy to discuss your specific family dynamic. I normally wouldn't bring that up this early in the discussion because we've got some small little things still on the agenda. So preteens and teens can smell things a mile away. It's hard to sneak anything past them, even if it's for the betterment of the family. It's very true, but this isn't trying to get things past them. You want to give them life lessons. You want to give them skills, because when they get older and they get into conflict in college, are they going to quit college because like it's too hard? No, you're teaching them through these skills to negotiate with a professor, talk to the dean, talk to other people who are working on a project with them at school, or when their boss acts inappropriately to them, they learn from us. So we're teaching them by example what to do when you're in power struggle is take a step back and go to the person in empathy. You can do that with a boss on an appropriate business level. So this is teaching them life skills. This isn't teaching them how to manipulate or to teach them that, or like, so when you said smell things a mile away, I take that to mean that they think you're being inauthentic. So be authentic. Make this real. Somebody wrote, they're clicking with how I've muddled my way through, and I'm not sure what that means. If you could clarify that, then I will understand that better. I think somebody's letting their kids listen to this so that they can maybe learn the tips, the secrets that you're getting. And it's all okay, because you know what my agenda is? My secret agenda is that every family have peace, love, unconditional love in their home. That's my secret agenda. So if you're watching this, now you now know. Aw, somebody said that this is so difficult, and sometimes it's easier just to teach your kids not to have kids. But you know what? It's not. If you have children, it's because you want them, I'm assuming. I know that when I was little, all I ever wanted to be was a wife and mother. And I, eventually learned other things and decided to do other things. But one of the most gratifying things that I've ever done in my life is bring up my children. And I muddled through it like some of you. And I cried myself to sleep, like I told you, on some nights when I just couldn't figure out what to say to her or how to say it or how to get her to stop banging on my door, just to get in to talk to me for the 600th time after she's supposed to be in bed. It was hard. It was hard, but it was worth it, because today my daughters are 26 and 22. They learn how to be in relationship with others. My one daughter was in her sorority at college, and they said that she's like the mom. She helps them, she teaches them, she kept them safe, and she still had a healthy relationship with all of her sorority sisters. But when one of them drank too much, they called her because they knew that she would be able to handle it. So my kids are grown and they're making pretty good choices. And they also go to therapy when they feel they need it. And they go to doctors when they feel they need it. And they go to friends when they feel they need it. And they come to me or their father when they feel that that would benefit them. Oh, so her children were clicking, saying that it's clicking with her. Okay, that she's getting it, that it's resonating with her. Got it. And Elizabeth said, you're right. We do learn a lot through them and from them. Yes. And I'm so glad that you're getting good content here. My hope and dream is that every family has the peace that I eventually got through my trial and error. So I'm going to read a couple of the questions. Some of them are anonymous and some of them are with names. So one person writes, I have a very strong-willed preteen that gets angry at me for the littlest things, calling me names, swearing at me, not listening to anything that I have to say. She doesn't want anything to do with me. And the parent has some sort of mental illness, so that doesn't help with our relationship. Any suggestions on how to start having a healthy relationship with her with so much baggage after all these years? Yes, one step at a time. Empathy will go a very long way. So one thing is that when she calls you names, don't accept it. She's angry and maybe a little ashamed over some things that had happened, or kids are funny. If you have mental illness and it's obvious and kids are teasing her about it, then she's taking that out on you. And that's not fair. So I feel if you openly talk about it and all the things that you're doing to overcome it, not in a therapy way, like she's not your therapist, she's not your friend. So, in an age appropriate way, you're handling it. And that doesn't define you. You have mental illness. You are not mentally ill. It's a very big distinction that I really, really stress in my coaching practice. And if this preteen is really, really in power struggle with you, which it really sounds like she doesn't want to have anything to do with you, I think that it's just going to take little baby steps, and you're going to take a lot of rejection before you get there. Don't accept her calling you names. When she does that, you say, "Can you please not say that? Can you please rephrase that? I'm mom," or "I'm mom, me," or whatever she calls you. Um, Swearing is not accepted in my home, that sort of thing. But before you start this with her, I would actually say, "Hey, listen, I have something really important to talk about with you. And when is a good time for us to sit down?" So I would make an arrangement with her, not when she's watching TV, not when she's chatting with her friends, not when she's in the middle of something, but I would really try to get on her schedule, even if it's for 5 minutes, and say, "I want to turn a new leaf with you. What's it going to take?" See if that helps. The next question I have is, my daughter says she's going to take out the garbage or dishes or whatever after she finishes her homework, but she doesn't do it because homework is never done. Okay, so work out another time with her then. So if she says, because it's true, they have a lot of homework, plus they're doing Zoom school now, so there's a lot of times that they're really not available. So if that's the case, then maybe they need to take out the garbage or do the dishes before they start homework. So make a new agreement as to when is a good time. If they're playing with you and they're not doing their chore that you agreed on a time, you agreed on a place, you agreed on the what, and she's still not doing it, then you want to wait till let's say she's watching TV and there's a commercial on the TV. You'll approach her at the TV, you put your hand on her shoulder, make eye contact, and say, "Garbage." And if she doesn't move, you don't move. But remember, just nothing on the face, "Garbage." She's going to think that's so weird. She's going to be like, "Oh, fine." I've done that. My kids are like, "Why are you staring at me like that?" But it made them move. But do it at a time that they're in a commercial or in between activities or something to that effect. Let's see. The next one says, it's hard to know when letting something go, picking your battles, is actually detrimental to teaching responsibility. Okay, yeah, it is hard to know that sometimes. And some of it is trial and error. But when you have an agreement, you want to teach your children that it's important that they keep their word. They keep their word with you and with others. So picking your battles, if it involves relinquishing their responsibility or lack of integrity or losing some boundaries and values that you created as a family, then you have to navigate that. So picking your battles doesn't mean they get off the hook for not being a part of the family as a team and not keeping up your family values. That's not acceptable. And that's something that you definitely have to navigate. Oh, interesting. I'm just learning that I can actually click on this thing and says I can answer it live, which I did. I answered these questions live. So I think that, Amy, might be a little more of a conversation too with me. You might want to get on a call with me. I'm going to post here. Let's post it. I'm going to post the link to get on a call with me. because I think you might want to schedule that for, it sounds like that might be a little bit more of a conversation on what picking your battles means. All right. It looks like for now, anybody else have any other questions? Because I really want to be of service to you. I want you to feel like you really got your money's worth on this webinar. I'm joking. I want you to feel like you really got what you wanted. So post in the chat so that I know that you got value from this and that I was able to help you. Oh, somebody said, thank you for mentioning the notebook. Oh, that was excellent. And actually with some of the stubborn children, that might be a good thing for you to start too. Like, I want to start communicating with you and I feel like we're starting from ground zero. Would you be willing to do journaling back and forth with me and just, hello, this happened today, and ask a question, something like that. You could modify it for your personal family. So I know that in my coaching practice, I help all kinds of dynamics, and I want to be able to help you and your kids before they make poor choices. And it's not always easy, but if it comes from a loving place, it's worth it. Excuse me. So I want all of you to have peace. I want you all to stop yelling or to stop having silence in your home. And I am super excited to get on a discovery call with each of you so that I can help you. I've only got 7 spots available right now. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're scheduling. Let's see, I will post that link again so that you have it in the chat box and you can schedule the call with me. It's a 30-minute call and I can go through your personal family dynamic and we can talk about how I can help you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, I see some more comments. Just a second. Thank you very much. Cheryl says, thank you very much for your time and energy, Rochelle. You are helpful and definitely useful to me to kickstart my parenting revolution. I love it. We're revolutionary parents, making a change, making a difference. Sincere, practical, down to earth, and sensitive. I really appreciate that. That's so, so nice. I really want to be able to help you, and it comes from a real place. I remember being a parent, completely lost, not knowing what to do, crying myself to sleep. I don't want anybody to do that anymore. I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to help you get through that. That's why I started coaching. I believe in peace. I believe in families, and I believe everybody should just love each other and have safe homes. And I really appreciate that that's what you got. Kathy says, I related so much of what you to what you said in this session. Keep it coming. Then come to my next webinar next month. You'll be getting notices about it. And Amy says, thank you. Love your recommendations and your stories. I'm so happy to help. Elizabeth got a few takeaways. Allison, how do divorced parents handle 16-year-olds and driving? And I will be doing more webinars. You can go to my website, www.coachred1, that's the number 1.com. Sign up for my newsletters. You will always be notified in what's going on. Get on a call with me if you feel you need help along the way. You don't need to parent alone. If you need backup, Coach Red is here for you. One more time, my website, www.coachred1.com. So get on a call with me, get in my Facebook group. Happy parenting. Have a wonderful night, everybody.